what is up, everybody? Welcome back or welcome to Bitch Pet Podcast. I'm your host, April, and I'm going to be really honest with you right now. I've been debating on if this month will even get an episode for quite some time. And I've been struggling with what I wanted to talk about for this episode. I haven't really gotten any concrete ideas. I had one topic that I kind of thought, yeah, this could be something that I talk about, but then it never really took off from just that idea. And I've been going back and forth with my thoughts on the podcast and if I was going to keep going and what I was going to do, and just kind of bouncing some different ideas and just thoughts around in my head surrounding the podcast for months. And it's not that I think I want to end the podcast, but going into it when I started this whole thing, I never really put into thought if I was going to do seasons, if I was going to just have it continue, if I was just going to be continuously posting every month and just kind of have it evolve into whatever it was going to evolve to. But now that I've reached a point where I'm kind of really struggling with the podcast, I think it'll be best if I just end up having this be the end of the season. And had I known that going into this whole thing, I might have planned some big elaborate send off for the podcast until whenever I came back, but that's not how it worked out, unfortunately. So it's just going to be this type of episode where I just don't really have a lot to say fully, but we can just kind of chit chat and go over some of the things that I guess I've learned, not only just within the last month, but also just what I've learned throughout this course of the podcast type of situation. Yeah. So if this is your first time tuning into Bitch Pet Podcast, no worries. You still have 19 other episodes you can go back and listen to and watch and catch up on everything that you've missed. But I do think that the podcast will be back. I don't know when it'll be back. I don't know if I'll be able to come back and start up again with whatever new season I do in December when this whole thing started, or if it's going to be a little bit longer than that, because recently I've been having this pull to just do something else, and I've been wanting to explore this topic for a really long time. I just think it's something that I have to go and pursue. And so I don't think it's fair to the podcast or to me to try and do both at the same time, because I feel like this thing that I have to go pursue, it needs my undivided attention and time outside of my job. And with me wanting to also keep the podcast going, it's not going to be the best episodes, and I don't feel like that's fair, because throughout this whole thing, I've always wanted to put out something that I was proud of and something that I wanted to have my name attached to, and I didn't want to half-ass it. I didn't want to, put out just shit things. And there have been some times where just things happened and it wasn't up to my level of standard and it made me mad. So I think also just with the podcast itself, there's things that I have to tweak and make better and make sure that I'm putting out the type of quality product that I want to put out. So I think there's some things that need to be fixed in that capacity as well. So I just think it's best for the podcast to just take a break for a while. That way, whenever I come back, it's a bigger, better, and more up to par, I guess, quality of production that I want to be doing. But aside from all of that, I hope everybody's month has been treating you well and we're well into summer now, so hope you're staying cool if you live in hotter places or staying warm if you're in cooler places. I don't know what part of the world you're in, but I've been outside a lot this past month and to the point where I'm no longer one skin tone. And I made this joke for a while that I was one skin tone because I was. I had somehow mastered just the one skin tone. And so now that I'm not, because I've been wearing some shorts and I went out to like a lake and so I was in a swimsuit and a lot more skin was exposed than I normally would. So there's a little bit of a tan. It's hardly noticeable if you don't see it and it's fine otherwise, but I notice it and it's a little bit it's there. So I got like the smallest sunburn on like the back of my hand. You can't even tell in the video. But I put sunscreen like all over any exposed skin and somehow I don't know if I either missed the back of my hand or what ended up happening, but then there was like this sunburn on my hand, but then in like this surrounding areas there was like a one circle that wasn't burnt. I don't know how that happens. Sunburn's weird. But my month, aside from all of that, has been really, really good. I got to visit with some family, and shout out to Lady Eagle from episode 7. She was up visiting, so I got to hang out with her quite a few times, which was amazing because I miss her and I love hanging out with her. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got, and I haven't really been doing anything else besides all of that. So, just so that way this episode's a little bit longer than just like some random like hi bye type of thing. The topic that I was kind of tossing around for the episode was about women and how I feel like women are so much harder on themselves than they need to be because I work with 4 other women at my job and they're really great women in their own ways and I'm like in the middle. So there's 2 women that are older than me, and then 2 women that are younger than me. So I'm like right in the middle where I can relate to both sides. There's so many different times, like this throughout our work weeks and our work days, where things will come up and they'll just talk negatively about themselves, whether it's about their appearance or like something to that nature. Maybe it's just because I've gone through my own personal, like, bodily acceptance over the last few months or good chunk of last couple months that I'm starting to notice when other people do it to themselves and I don't like it because I don't feel like there's anything ever wrong with anybody, especially women. So I'm trying to like, there's nothing wrong with you. You're fine. Like you're beautiful just the way that you are. One of them has joked where I just need to compliment her all the time. I'm like, okay, if that's what you need from me, I can do that for you. It's no, like it's no sweat off my back type of thing where it's like no big deal. I can easily do that. But then it also just like begs the question of like, why aren't more people giving or like more people in their lives giving them these compliments? Like I make a joke with my girlfriend all the time where like I feed her boyfriend his lines because I'll compliment her all the time because she's gorgeous and I fucking love her. They were getting ready for like some wedding. This was months ago. And so we were just chit chatting. I think it was my birthday or something. I don't know what it was, but like me and her needed to be on the phone together, but she was getting ready for this wedding. And she had got done getting ready, and I was like, oh my God, you're like a goddess. I fucking love you. And like, you're just so pretty. And she just looks at her man and she goes, see how easy it is? And I go, you can just repeat what I said and she'll still love it. Like, I can feed you your lines. It's fine. It makes me realize like how lucky I am with my husband that he showers me with compliments like all the time. Whether I'm trying to get complimented or I'm just simply existing, like that man gives me compliments on a daily basis. Like even when I'm just changing to get ready for work, he's just like, oh, you look so good. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I look so good. Like I just woke up out of bed. I'm probably a gremlin, but to him, I still just look so good. Like, I hear it from other women where I'm like, yeah, my significant other, my boyfriend, doesn't like compliment me like the way that I would like them to. And I'm just like, what is with these men not praising and complimenting their women in their lives? It also just like makes me think about like when I was a kid. Like, I know my dad would give me compliments, but then there was a long stint where like they just stopped, and it wasn't because like he was doing it intentionally. Like, I don't even think he realized he stopped doing it. But I remember when I told him all the things that his ex-wife was saying to me and all the things that she had done, and everything that I was doing with that, then he really started making an effort to try and combat all of those nasty things that were said to me over the years. So, like, he has started giving me like compliments, things like that. It just, they're not that hard, in my opinion. Like, compliments are not that hard. And I'm saying this knowing that I could probably give my husband more compliments than I do, because I do give him compliments. I always tell him that he looks nice if he does, because I've said this before and I'll say it again. I say what I mean what I say. So if I'm telling him that he looks good and I think he looks nice, it's because I think he looks good and I think he looks nice. I call him handsome all the time because I do think he's very handsome. I just think that's a nice little like pet name for my husband, is handsome, but also he does know, and I also am aware that I call both of our dogs handsome a lot. So there'll be times where I'm walking into a room and I'll look at one of the dogs and I go, "Oh, hi, handsome," and then he'll like pop up and be like, "Yeah, babe," and I'm like, "Sorry, I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to the dog." So I see where that can be a bit construed, but like I can see that within myself that I could be better in like the compliments department, because men deserve compliments just as much as women, and I'm sure men are also hard on themselves, just like women are, but it's to a different degree, and it's in a different category, if that makes sense. Because I feel like a lot of pressure gets put on women, and a lot of expectations get put on women that aren't like reciprocated to like a men's experience. And not to say that men don't have their own pressures and expectations put on them. I'm sure that they do, but it's not to the same caliber as for women, at least to me. Perfect example. We were out to dinner because my sister in law and her family were up visiting. So we'd all gone out to dinner, and they have two kids. My sister in law came in with the kids and sat down, and they were all sitting together. And then her husband ended up sitting next to me. So she's trying to eat her dinner, and the kids are like tugging on her and wanting her attention and like, doing what kids do. And she brought up, she goes, the typical father just over there enjoying his meal and drinking his beer while mom is having both hands like pulled on by each child and can't even finish her dinner correctly. And I was just like, she said it, like, she's not wrong. And I thought that was really funny because I've been seeing a lot of those videos like on the internet where it's like a video of like a big group together of like families like with kids and things like that, and like they're like, the one I most recently saw was like everybody was eating ice cream, and it was like a pan to like all the dads, and they were just like by themselves eating ice cream, enjoying it with like no issues, and then pan over to the moms where either the moms are able to eat their ice cream, but they have to like set up their kids first, or like the moms are feeding the kids the ice cream before they can even eat it themselves. So it's definitely like something that's going around that I find interesting. And, it's just something that you don't notice until like you're in it, I guess. But yeah, I just think women are too hard on themselves, and I think that there's a lot of unfair expectations of women in many different aspects of life. Like, beauty standards are out the fucking like roof. They're so insanely out of reach. Like, they're just, it's astronomical how bad the beauty standards for women are. And just like expectations of what a wife should be and what a mom should be, and like, just various different things that I don't think is fair. I don't think it's right. But I understand that it'll take time for like those things to change, but also like both sides need to agree that they're unfair for it to really change. This reminds me of a conversation that me and my husband had a while ago. And me and my husband have these types of conversations like I don't want to say like every few months, but it's a conversation that's been popping up like throughout our relationship since the beginning. And it's probably one that's going to keep popping up like throughout the course of our marriage, just because I feel like it's a good thing to keep talking about. And it's basically just like men and women. Like that's the conversation that we have. I think I was treating him to breakfast one weekend, and so we were both driving to this restaurant, and we were both hungry. Something had ended up like triggering the conversation. I think like we were getting gas, so I was like just watching TikToks or whatever, and like I was watching a video and it had sparked something that my husband had wanted to say. So he was like, I don't understand like why this, and like started talking about it. And he came in kind of hot, and then so I came in equally as hot, and the conversation just kind of started getting a bit out of control a little bit too early in the day. And it was getting out of hand a little bit too quickly. So I had already like recognized like I'm not in a position to have this conversation. Like I'm hungry. So I'm not going to be like the most receptive to what he wants to say. Like I'm going to be in a very like argumentative, combative type of headspace. So like I don't want to talk about this conversation anymore. And but it reached the point during the drive to the restaurant that I was like, nope, we're done. I'm not talking about this anymore. We're dropping this subject. He goes, well, I just want to. I was like, no, I don't care. We're done. I'm not talking about this anymore. And so we continued the rest of the drive to the restaurant in silence, and we were just listening to music. And like I wasn't mad at him. I was just like, I'm not in the position to have this conversation. And could I have said it a bit better? Yeah, but it ended up working itself out anyway. We got to the restaurant, we were waiting to be seated, and then we were just like chit chatting about like random unrelated things. And we had sat down, and I was checking in with him because I didn't want him to be upset with me because he had brought something to my attention like a couple weeks prior, and I had wanted to start working on it because I didn't want him to feel like I shut him down in any way. So I wanted to check in that he didn't feel like that's what I was doing because that's not what I wanted to do. So I was like, hey, like you're upset with me, and were you trying to like talk about like XYZ? And he goes, no, but I did want to talk about that topic. And I was like, okay, well, like let's try it again. So we still hadn't had any food yet, but we were like at the restaurant, we were sitting at the table, and we were in a much more calm kind of state to have this conversation. And this conversation lasted from like the once we sat down to ordering our food, getting our food, having the whole meal, the entire drive back to the apartment, and even like the first like 15 to 20 minutes of us being back in the apartment. Like that's how long this conversation was. It was like a couple hour long conversation. And it was a really good conversation. I feel like we had come to agreement in a lot of different aspects of like the men and women debate and things of that nature. And there had been other topics that have come up over the course of our relationship that we never really got a resolution on, and we were able to come to an agreement and resolution on multiple things in that long conversation. And then, of course, we reached the inevitable, okay, I'm done talking about it type of stopping point, which is fine. And my husband had reached that point. He's like, okay, I'm over this conversation. We're done. And I was like, okay. So we just dropped it. And it wasn't because like I was mad at him or he was mad at me. We're just like, okay, like this conversation has run its course. We'll just put a pin in it for now, and it'll come up naturally a bit later, which is something I know will happen because I talked to my girlfriend about like some of the things me and my husband talk about. And me and her have like a very similar opinion on a lot of things pertaining to like the men and women conversation, which I don't think should surprise anybody that two women have the same opinion on men and women. But, and she ends up having like these types of conversations with her boyfriend. She's like, well, you need to change his mind. I was like, I'll get there eventually, but like, it's not going to be right now. Like, I know this conversation will come up again and I'll have more opportunities to like get my point across. I was like, but it's just not going to be right now. And it's something that I've realized early on in my relationship with my husband, that I'll get him to see my side of things at some point, just it maybe isn't always going to be right then and there when we have this conversation. And sometimes it's going to take for a conversation to have to be revisited multiple times for it to really like cement itself. Like, this is what I've been trying to say this whole time. And maybe that's just because I need to figure out different ways of making my points or like bringing different examples for him to understand, and same like vice versa if he's trying to get me to see his point of view. There's just different ways to approach a conversation of that caliber. So I was telling her, I was like, we'll get there. It's just going to be a minute. And maybe it might not be until like this specific way futuristic event happens that may or may not happen. But I was like, we'll get there. It just doesn't have to be right now. Like, I know that he's a good man and that I wouldn't have married him if I didn't think that he was. And what I also think is interesting about me and my husband with this men and women debate is we both have a bias on either side. During that very long conversation about it, I was like, you have a bias towards women and I have a bias towards men. And I was like, can we agree on that? He goes, oh yeah, we definitely do. I said, okay. So we both know there's this bias that the other has while we're having this conversation. It's going to evoke a lot of emotion in our sides of the argument, and it's going to bring up different points because women can be shitty, but also men can be shitty. So I had brought up during this long conversation, I was like, well, how about we both start working on unpacking and unwiring that bias? I was like, because it really isn't doing either of us any favors. Because A, we know that the bias obviously doesn't apply to our current partner. Because while I have a bias towards men, I know that my husband is not a piece of shit. And I don't feel like he falls into any of these categories that get brought up when we're talking about like the men and women debate. Just like he knows I'm not a piece of shit and that I don't fall into any of these categories that come up with the men and women debate. So I'm like, we both know that the other person doesn't apply to the bias that we have. So we need to start working on like unpacking that bias. That way it's not such a prevalent thing in these types of conversations. He's like, okay, like I can get behind that. Like I see your point and I can see where that can, be something that we can each work on. I was like, yeah, like I think so too. When I'm talking to my girlfriend about these same things, which is the same thing, she has a bias towards men. He has a bias towards women. So it's very much like the same type of conversations in a sense, whereas like, the man versus bear debate that ended up happening like a while ago, like that's always like a big like point of conversation, like with these, women and men type of conversations. But I still feel like it's important as a woman to hear a man's side of things, just like I think it's equally as important for a man to hear a woman's side of things, if not more so, because men always have their sides of the story told, but that's just my thing. But yeah, like it was a really good conversation that me and my husband had. I couldn't even tell you like all the things that we had talked about because it really ranged from, I couldn't even tell you. Like we talked about so many different things in that conversation as it pertains to both men and women. But he ended up seeing a lot of the points that I was trying to make over the years, and so it was a really progressive type of conversation. So I'm really happy that we ended up having it. And I think that's something that I enjoy about my husband is that I could talk to him about literally anything, like women and men debate, whether it's religion, whether it's different sciences, whether it's kids, different parenting styles, like video games, books. Like there isn't a single topic that's off the table for me and my husband. And I always want to know his opinion on things, just like he always wants to know my opinion on things, which is why I find it so strange and weird that there are people in marriages currently to where they cannot stand like their partner, whether it's like they can't stand their wife, they can't stand their husband, it doesn't really matter. Like, you married this person that you no longer can stand and you can't have a conversation with them, whether it's about like the weather or about like anything substantial in the house. And I find that just like mind boggling, because I'm just like, why did you marry this person if you can't even stand them like that? Like, if you think that it's such a hassle to like go home and be present in your marriage and to just like be a person with like your spouse, why are you even still together? Like, that's the type of like thought process that I have when I see those types of marriages. I'm just like, why are you even in it? It just makes me really thankful that I have a husband that I adore and I love talking to, and he is, my favorite person. He's easily one of my favorite people on the planet, and that I'm also his favorite person, or one of his favorite people on the planet, and we just enjoy each other's company and we like to do things together. And yeah, like, I'm just very happy to have him as my husband. He had showed me this video the other day. It was I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was something where like you bounce between I love my husband and like I'm gonna strangle him, or like something along those lines, where it's like he's getting on my last goddamn nerve. And he goes, "Is that how it is like with you?" And I look at him and I go, "No, like most of the time I love you, and actually like all the time I love you." I was like, and I'm so happy that like we're together. I was like, but there is like maybe like a 5 or 10% time where I'm just like, you're getting on my last nerve. Like, you're the most annoying person right now. And I was like, but I don't feel like that 5 or 10% like comes out very often. It's very like few and far between when that kind of comes up, where I'm just like, you're annoying right now, and I'm just gonna go over here. And I'm sure I get like that for him too. So yeah, I just think women need to be nicer to themselves, and I also just think that we can do better to be nicer to each other, because I know that there's definitely some nastiness that can come with like women on women crime type of things. And I do feel like we're getting a bit better at that. But there's still like always room for improvement. So yeah, just be nicer to yourself. You're not doing anything wrong. You're beautiful just the way you come. There's nothing wrong with you. And people should just give more compliments, but not in like a creepy way, Yeah, that's pretty much all I got for you this month. I don't know when I'm going to be back, and I don't know what we're going to be doing when we get back, but I have a couple ideas of what direction this podcast can take once I come back. But in the meantime, you can definitely go back and listen to any of the past episodes that have been released to get your bitch bet fix during this break, hiatus, whatever you want to call it. If this is your first time coming across Bitch Bet Podcast, then you can go back and check out all the last episodes that have been published. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and rate the episode 5 stars. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast. That way you can know whenever new episodes are getting released again. You can also follow the podcast on social media at Bitch Bet Podcast, all one word with an I. The video episodes are up on YouTube and Rumble, so go ahead and go check those out and subscribe to those channels as well. Regardless of how long I'm going to be gone, the message never changes. As always, so all the negative voices in your head, bitch bet, and I will see you guys the next time I see you.